Welcome back to Next Phase. Today I want to talk about something we usually think of as a bad thing. Mistakes. When we hear that word, we usually think of something going wrong. Something that shouldn't have happened and something that we wish we could take back. But mistakes are human. Anyone who tries to build something, discover something, or change something is going to make them. They are not a sign that you are not good enough. They are a sign that you are actually doing something. And in science, especially in medicine and biotechnology, some of the most important breakthroughs didn't come from perfect plans. Actually, they came from weird, unexpected results. From experiments that slightly failed. From moments that looked like total errors at first. Sometimes a mistake isn't the end of the process. Sometimes it's the beginning of something kind of amazing. In this episode, I want to show you how that happens and why the history of science is full of so-called failures that actually ended up changing the world. One of the clearest examples of a mistake leading to something huge is the discovery of penicillin. In 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming was working with bacteria in his lab. He was growing them in small dishes called petri dishes, just watching how they grew and behaved. At some point, he left for a short vacation. When he came back, he saw that one of his dishes had been contaminated with mold. Normally, that would mean the experiment got ruined. Most people would just throw it away and start again. But Fleming didn't. He looked closer. He noticed something odd. Around the mold, the bacteria simply weren't growing. It looked like the mold was stopping them. Instead of ignoring it, he got curious. He started checking what was going on. That mold turned out to produce a substance that could kill bacteria. That substance later became penicillin, the first real antibiotic, and it completely changed medicine. Before antibiotics, even small infections could be deadly. After penicillin, doctors finally had a way to fight bacterial infections and millions of lives were saved. And again, this didn't happen because everything went according to plan. It happened because something went wrong. And someone decided to pay attention to it. Now, let's talk about X-rays. In 1885, a German physicist named Wilhelm Röntgen was working in his lab with something called a cathode ray tube. One day, he noticed something strange. Even though the tube was covered, a nearby fluorescent screen began to glow when the tube was on and the room was dark. So, something invisible was coming out the tube and hitting the screen. Röntgen tried to block these mysterious rays. He put different objects in front of the tube, but most of them didn't stop the rays. Then, he put his hand in front of it. On the glowing screen, he could see the outline of his hand, and inside it, the dark shapes of his bones. That was a huge moment. Röntgen then used a photographic plate to capture these images. That's how he created the first X-ray images. Very quickly, hospitals and research labs started using this new technology. For the first time, doctors could see inside the human body without surgery. Of course, back then people didn't yet understand how dangerous X-ray radiation could be in high doses. That knowledge came later. But again, the key idea is the same. Röntgen wasn't trying to invent a medical imaging tool. He was just curious about a weird effect in his lab, and he followed it. Another fascinating story comes from long ago, and it involves quinine, a compound used to treat malaria. Quinine comes from the bark of a tree that grows in South America. Today, you might know it from tonic water, but for centuries it was an imported medicine against malaria. According to one story, an Andean man had malaria and got lost in the jungle. He was very thirsty, so he drank water from a small pool near a kina tree. The water tasted extremely bitter, and he thought it might make him even sicker. But the opposite happened. His fever went down and he eventually recovered. Later, people began sharing the knowledge about the tree. Jesuit missionaries later learned about the bark and started using it to treat malaria. That one accidental sip eventually led to a medicine that saved millions of lives. So, what can we actually learn from these stories? Penicillin, quinine, X-rays. None of them were part of a perfect plan. They came from mistakes, accidents, or strange results that didn't make sense at first. And in every case, someone noticed that weird thing, stayed curious, and decided to explore it instead of ignoring it. Science doesn't move in a straight, clean line. It's messy, some experiments fail, and some results will surprise you. Sometimes you spend hours on something that looks totally useless, but those useless moments? They can be the part of discoveries that change everything. So the lesson is pretty simple. Mistakes are not something to be ashamed of. They are a normal part of trying, exploring, and learning. And a lot of time the biggest breakthroughs are actually hiding inside those mistakes. Next time, if something doesn't work or you feel like you messed up, try to pause for a second and look closer. It might feel like a failure right now, but it could also be the beginning of something really incredible.